Welcome to Modern Aikidoist Podcast. My sincere thanks to listeners and those who have liked, subscribed, and commented. Your interest is noticed and deeply appreciated. There are many observations that Aikido has seen a decline in popularity in the last 10 years or so. I recall hearing that Google lists the number of searches for the term Aikido has been consistently dropping for the last several years. Among the many arguments about why that is and what should be done to address it, one idea keeps coming up. That is, Aikido needs another movie star to emerge and make Aikido visible again. Let's examine that concept. It is a fact when martial arts are shown in movies, they get a lot of attention. The first phenom, and probably the biggest, was obviously Bruce Lee. It's fair to say that martial arts today would not be anywhere near as popular as they are without Bruce Lee's sensationalizing of the martial arts through his movies. As for Aikido, there's really no doubt that Steven Seagal movies made a huge impact on the popularity of Aikido. Many current practitioners and instructors admit that these movies are what brought them to Aikido dojos to start learning. Movies are amazing advertisements for martial arts. I'm sure if you looked at any art, you would see the same surge in popularity when that art is featured in a Hollywood movie. It's pure advertising. The two main benefits of movies for advertising is that the art is made to look flawless and invincible. The reason is that it is used as a prop to further the story, just like Luke Skywalker and the power of the Force. We all know that there is no Force, but how many people buy models of lightsabers? If something is popular, it is profitable. About a year ago, I saw an article which showed a chart of Google results over time of people who were searching the term Aikido. You could see two distinct spikes in the number of searches over the last several years. The first was when an episode of the TV series The Walking Dead featured an Aikido practitioner. He was a character that appeared for one episode only, and the result was a remarkable increase in Google searches. The other spike came when the miniseries The Man in the High Castle was aired. The main character trained Aikido in her younger years, and this was shown a few times in the series, albeit briefly. These things amount to visibility. Entertainment has very large audiences, and what they watch tends to be engaging. Commercials are pushed into audiences' faces constantly, and although a lot of people watch commercials, people tend to tune them out. They are pretty much numb to them. But a story is engaging. It draws you into the characters, the adversities they face, and the methods they use to overcome them and find success. Of course, when a martial art is a main tool to do that, it piques interest. Is this good for Aikido, and will it be a benefit? At first glance, one would think yes, obviously. How would getting new students be anything but a good thing? It would build tuition revenue and bring energy to the dojo. These are good things for sure. However, we have the internet and word of mouth travels faster than lightning these days. If new students come in expecting to be taught cool stuff like they saw on the screen and are given lackluster training, they will likely quit, and here's where it gets really bad, and share their disappointment in their experience. Maybe they would be fairly kind and merely say something like, yeah, Aikido training wasn't quite for me, but it was still decent. Or they might say, yeah, I was expecting to learn some great stuff and it was just BS. Given what I've seen of online communication these days, I think comments like the latter are far more likely. People are using online reviews and recommendations a great deal now. The reputation a business or product has online has a huge impact on people's decisions about where to spend their money. You have to admit, the sentiment about Aikido in the online community is anything but good. It is easy to point the finger at people for their ignorance when they make negative comments about Aikido, but I think Aikido's image problem is self-inflicted. To be brutally honest about it, there's a great deal of garbage Aikido out there. If you go browsing on YouTube for Aikido, you will find a lot of stuff that is horrible. You will find quite a bit which is mediocre as well, but very little that is practical or effective. Does this mean that a few practitioners and instructors are making Aikido look bad? In my estimation, no. This is merely a reflection of how Aikido has slid backwards from being an effective martial art and is now largely irrelevant in the martial arts world. Let me be clear here. There are Aikido practitioners and instructors who are the real deal and are incredibly competent and capable. I think they represent a small minority of the Aikido community, however. How this comes into play when someone sees a movie which has an amazing Aikido practitioner is they go down to the nearest Aikido dojo and are vastly disappointed. Then they think what most would. Aikido looks great when shown on screen and choreographed, but it's garbage in real life. This is pretty much the image Aikido has among people who haven't had first-hand experience with an Aikido practitioner who is the real deal. When I have spoken to other martial arts instructors and practitioners, they pretty much all say the same thing. Something like, I met an Aikido person and I was amazed at what they could do. These people had traveled in the martial arts world enough to come across someone with real skill, not merely someone who was dressing up and practicing some kind of martial-flavored dance. My feeling is that until Aikido cleans up its product more, the worst thing that could happen is to get a lot of attention drawn to it. What would happen is a flood of reviews which would reflect disappointment. One of the biggest disappointments would be that new students would be discouraged when they were told that it would take a few decades before they could expect their Aikido to be useful or practical. I think this is one of the worst things we practitioners could possibly say about our art. It's not only a turnoff, but it's not true. A good instructor can build solid skills in months, not years or decades. If someone tells you this is impossible, they are either a poor instructor or are a student to one. It's true it will take years or decades to be extremely good, but there's a huge difference between useful competence and mastery-level skills. We are shooting ourselves in the foot by claiming Aikido is impossible or difficult to learn. It isn't easy, but it isn't mastering quantum physics either. It can be done, and it has been done. It just takes good training and practice. Another problem I see with the flood of movie-driven interest in Aikido is it tends to draw the wrong crowd. These are people who want to be John Wick and want to learn how to do it quickly. Their expectations are not based in reality, and that means they will quit when they find out it takes work to build amazing skill. Usually within a few weeks or so, a new spectacular distraction hits and their attention shifts entirely to the new cool thing. Martial arts study is not a good fit for people like this. Sure, it can be an opportunity for them to change and grow into someone who is more grounded, but that's highly unlikely. This means a high turnover rate. It is my observation that catering to short attention span people like this will discourage and alienate serious students. Those who are engaged and focused on long-term learning are the meat and potatoes of a dojo or practice group. They want serious growth and have little patience for following trends and fads. My advice is focus on these people and fulfilling their interests. This is a long-term dojo vision, not a short-term one. From a business standpoint, visibility is a good thing, usually. When the visibility is bad, it can be detrimental to the business. Martial arts training is also viewed as a luxury to most people, so it's easy for people to quit if they get bored, feel they're wasting their time, or get frustrated with lack of progress. There's nothing we can do about bad Aikido skills being shown or taught on the internet. People are free to show what they want to show. Getting into arguments with them or getting upset that they are going on is not productive either. Our job comes down to a fundamental Aikido principle. Work within your range of effectiveness. That is, make sure your Aikido skills are strong and you are capable. Make sure your students are the same. If you're at this point, network out and work with other martial artists and dojos. Use another principle of Aikido, connection. Connect effectively and show the power of Aikido. It is fine to be open and honest that some Aikido is bad and is no representation of real Aikido. People appreciate honesty and can detect lies and BS. Don't be so eager to cover for Aikido's faults that you make yourself look to be part of them. Unfortunately, we cannot really police our art, but we can be honest about what we see. Honesty builds credibility, and if anything Aikido is suffering from a current lack of is credibility. So is there media or entertainment coverage that could be good for Aikido? Perhaps. There are a few shows that I'm absolutely fascinated with. They are Kitchen Nightmares and Bar Rescue. The aspects that are fascinating are not the personal drama, the poor state of the business to start out with, or the old to new remodeling that goes on, but how a dysfunctional team can be rebuilt into an effective one by focusing on solid fundamentals and building effective teamwork. These shows start the same way, usually with a struggling business admitting that they are having problems and they need help to fix them. I wonder how many dojos and instructors have egos that would allow them to admit that they have a problem and would be ready to change their habits and restructure their training. My guess is probably not many. For restaurant and bar owners, losing thousands of dollars a month and being sometimes $500,000 to $750,000 in debt serves as a huge wake-up call. Bankruptcy will do that. I doubt there is any dojo in this much financial trouble. Most close their doors long before this happens. Many limp along, showing either some loss which the instructor makes up out of his own pocket, or just barely keep the doors open and the bills paid. The hospitality market is low margin. but it is a big market and a good business can make decent money. The martial arts market is a different story. It is also a low-margin business, and like hospitality, is labor-intensive. The martial arts market is also tiny in comparison to restaurants and bars. It's extremely unforgiving in comparison as well. The good thing is that a dojo has a lower barrier to entry in that it is far less expensive to open a dojo than open a bar or a restaurant. All that said, turning around poor practices into good ones is necessary for any team or group. Albert Einstein's statement, "The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result," definitely applies here. The advantage of a rebuilding show like the ones I mentioned play on another positive trait of the hospitality industry. That is that turnarounds can happen quickly and people can be lured back in a short time. Dojos and martial arts do not work this same way, and the return on your investment does not happen in days or weeks, but months and years. It's just a slower moving market than food and drink service. People consume several times a day, every day, all their lives. Martial art training is a couple of times a week and is completely optional. That shouldn't mean overlooking making changes to what we as instructors and dojo operators do. That might mean making tangible changes in how we train or superficial changes in what our dojos look like. A visible change attracts attention and interest faster than tangible changes, but the tangible changes are the product. The product must be solid, not just have pretty packaging. While I don't believe a TV series about dojos being saved from ruin would necessarily be viable, I do believe admitting the product needs improving is something we need. Not only do we need to do it for ourselves, to focus on doing it better, but the world needs to hear that we are addressing it. As we make progress towards it, they need to hear and see that too. I admit that I'm not sure what exactly that will look like, but the first step is to clean up our house so that when people do come, they are impressed. We should be able to show them the power and practicality of Aikido, not just inundate them with theory or worse, pseudo-spiritual psychobabble. When I say show them, I don't mean just put on a flashy demo which is purely choreographed. That's fine and all, but I mean have the competence to face someone with martial arts and fighting skills and convince them that you know what you're doing. Hands-on does far more to convince than verbal diatribes or parlor trick demonstrations. Admittedly, my personal style is far more roll up the sleeves and train than it is to make grandstanding displays. We live in an age where style is everything and substance means little. Martial arts has suffered from this influence. The original UFC splashed a bucket of cold water on that, which I think in the end is a good thing. The martial arts strayed way too far off the path of practicality, Aikido included. It's time to take it back where it should be. Do we need a movie star in order to do that? I don't think so. What do you think? Please share your ideas in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube or BitChute, or go to the Facebook group Aikido the Martial Side and post a comment. The Spirit Aikido Online training program is now live. Subscribers get access to video training and mentoring to techniques and training methods I've adopted from other martial arts to make my Aikido more practical. There's a link in the description section. I invite you to check it out. I always enjoy hearing from listeners of the show, whether through comments or questions. Thank you all for sharing your interest. Enjoy your training.